S, I'm going to be thorough. If it's a C, I'm going to focus on my numbers. I'm going to be accurate. Does that make sense? Make sure in the hallway you guys are telling everybody that we're going to repeat this right afterwards. Okay? So let's go through it. So somebody asked the question, what's your brand? Well, I had a great idea when I started real estate to call myself the Home for Investment Team. That's a stupid name when the market goes down, isn't it? Yeah. My students still mad at me for selling houses this year. Right? So we've been changing our brand. And our brand is cocky. Our brand says we're a Ben Kinney listing. If you want to list with us, your home could have an opportunity to be a Ben Kinney listing. Isn't that cocky? Everybody say yes? Yes. Yeah, but it works. All of our marketing materials have this logo. So when I would start out on my iPad, I would bring it out. I'd make the decision if I wanted to go through the presentation with Brian based on his personality. We're going to assume that Brian is an I, a S, or maybe a C. A lot of times I deal with two personality types. Yeah, so you got to tailor it. So I'm going to open it up and say, Brian, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come and talk to you about your home. And I was really surprised when I saw that your home didn't sell. I hope today that we get to the bottom of why we think your property has resisted sale in the past. And I would really like an opportunity to show you how I think our marketing plan, our servicing plan is a little bit different. Does that seem fair to you today, Brian? Now, in my experience, there are three things that will determine if a property will or will not sell. The first is how well it's priced. Now, Brian, I would love to tell you that I control pricing or you get to choose. You get to choose whether or not your property sells or doesn't. The market gets to determine whether or not, or exactly what the price of your property is. Because your property is only worth what buyers today are willing to pay. Does that make sense to you, Brian? Now, we have a process that we do in our real estate team called the 555. And at the end of this presentation, after you commit that you think that I'm the right person to sell your property, we'll go through pricing if we decide to get to that point together. At that point, I'm going to give you 5 actives, 5 pendings, and 5 solds. From that information, we're going to compare each one of those property types, and just from that information, you're going to see what the high and the low pricing bracket for your property is. Our goal is to get right in the middle to the low side. See, Brian, in today's market, we're in a beauty pageant at a price war. Does that make sense to you, Brian? We got to be the prettiest house priced correctly. Okay? At the end, my goal is to help you get your home sold for the most amount of money in the least amount of time. Now, we'll know after the first 30 days if we're priced right because we'll have offers on the property. If we have showings of the property pretty consistently but no offers, we're at least 4 to 6% off. Brian, if we have low showings and no offers at all, we're at least 6 to 12% off. This is based on national statistics, Brian. If we only have drive-bys, because I'm going to do a lot of marketing, a lot of people can be driving by, you're going to think they're Pete and Tom's, they're doing a drive-by real slow, right? But they don't actually call me to come in, then we're at least 12% off. So at 30 days, I would like permission to sit back down with you and evaluate our pricing and marketing strategy at that point. Is that okay with you? Now, Brian, the second thing that will determine if a property will or will not sell is how it shows and how well we communicate. What I mean by that, Brian, is how are we going to showcase your property? See, 6 or 7 years ago, what used to happen is I would sit clients, buyers down around a table. They would come into the room, and I would say, these are the 10 different properties that I'm going to show you today. You know what they say to me now, Brian?
What's that?
They say, I bring them into the same exact room, and I'm all prepared the same way, and they say, Ben, these are the 10 different properties you're going to show me today. They're deciding which properties to see before I've ever even met them. And do you know where they're finding those properties, Brian?
Where?
The internet. Which means we have to do a good job not only making your home show well when we get inside, and we'll talk about staging after this presentation, we also have to make sure your property shows well online. So we're going to take extra time to make sure that we have a great virtual tour, that we've touched up the photos. See, that grass wasn't green before I got to it, Brian. I had to make some changes. They left the hose in the driveway, so I had to Photoshop that out. That was my mistake, but I took care of it. See, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure your property looks like the type of property somebody would want to get off their tush at their home and actually come in and see the inside. Because wouldn't you agree once they get inside, they probably have a better chance of buying it?
Yes, I would. So,
between videos, photography, Photoshop, this is what we're going to do to make sure your property is shown the best. Well, Brian, I specialize in helping sellers sell that have resisted sale in the past. Sellers like you, people that hired an agent for a period of time and that expired, people that hired an agent and they were frustrated and they canceled, or people that tried to sell the property on their own and they did not get the results that they wanted. Now, what I learned from this is the number one complaint I get from sellers about why they choose to interview an agent like me is, one, they didn't like the marketing that the agent did. They didn't feel like they were doing the best job to showcase the property. But the number one complaint is how well they communicated. But I'm going to make an assumption just by hanging out with you today is I can feel that you're a little bit frustrated in the lack of communication with your last agent gave you. Would you say that was true?
That's true.
Okay, so we have a commitment where I'm going to commit to communicating with you every single week from the day I list your property till the day I sell it. And you're welcome to call me or my office anytime you want. I'll give you email addresses and cell phone numbers. In addition to that, we have a software called Brevity, which allows us to showcase you what we're actually doing online, where we can dive into all the features and benefits of your properties, where you can log in 24 hours a day and see everything that I've done to market your property, all the places I'm actually marketing it, all the tasks that I'm actually completed, all the showing feedback, the buyer showings, everything. You have 24-hour access to this information. Does that seem fair?
Absolutely.
Okay. Brian, in addition to being able to see all this feedback, we're also a place where we market to buyers. So this would be another way that we're going to help get your property sold. Well, speaking of marketing to buyers, the number 3 thing that determines if the property will or will not sell is how well it's marketed. Now, Brian, this is the only thing that I really control. Other than the photography and the communication, you are really in charge of how well your property shows. Are you going to get a pre-inspection? Is it fixed up? Is it cleaned up, etc.? Pricing, we already discussed that. We don't control that. But this is what I own as a realtor. Now, looking back at these 3 things, Brian, which one of these 3 reasons do you think it was that your property resisted sale in the past? Say number 3. Marketing. Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Is that an embedded command? Say number 3, Ryan. So marketing. And Brian, this is why you're talking to me today, because I'm an expert at marketing properties. Well, the National Association of Realtors says every single year when they do the profile of buyers and sellers, they do a report that says how buyers found the actual home that they purchased. See, Brian, they tell us of all the people that bought a home last year, they surveyed them and they say, where did you first hear about the property that you bought? Well, I use this study every single year to adapt my listing presentation into something that could work to market my properties better and sell it faster. Now, let's go through each one of these categories together, and I'll tell you how I've adapted my marketing plan to work in this particular market. Well, the National Association of Realtors says that real estate agents are still important. I know a lot of people think that we've all gone away, but NAR said that about 35% of all properties that sold last year sold because an agent like me said, hey, Brian, you should go out and see this particular property. This is still a pretty large number, even though it's dramatically reduced to what it was, let's say, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's still nearly 1/3 of all sales. Because this number is so large, what we have to do is we have to have a marketing plan in place to allow us to market directly to real estate professionals. Our marketing plan is to send electronic flyers to the top agents in the market. And not just once, Brian, continually throughout the entire term of the listing. Deliver paper flyers to the top 20% of agents. See, in our market, 20% of the agents sell 80% of the properties. Make sure that we get the virtual tours up so all the agents in the community can see it. We're going to stand up at our local realtor and office meetings and talk about the benefits, prices, and features of your particular property. And I'm going to commit to you, Brian, that I'm always going to be in constant communication. And with your permission, honest communication. For instance, if a buyer tells me something, I want your permission not to filter it, just to give it back to you exactly what he said. For instance, if you walked in and he said, the house didn't smell good, I would call you and say, the buyer said your house didn't smell good. Maybe you and I could address it. It smells fine now, but it's just an example. Make sense? said that they would do to market your property directly to other real estate professionals that for some reason I forgot to mention?
No.
No. Great. You guys hear that? I assume that I'm doing everything, and if I didn't say it, I forgot. So that's a scripted dialogue, for those of you guys that don't believe in script. Well, the next one is online marketing. The National Association of Realtors says that online marketing is extremely important. In fact, we know that over 90% of buyers' first step is to search for properties online. And nearly all buyers, unless they're from Denver, Canada, have the internet connections. They have access to the internet, right? But what the NAR profile of buyers and sellers said, that 37% of actual buyers found the actual home that they purchased online. That's pretty amazing. The first time in history there's been a source greater than a real estate professional finding a property. Still 86% of all buyers use the real estate professional to purchase. So this is massive. Because that's so large, Brian, we have to have a marketing plan in place to market our property directly online in the most effective manner. And what we figured out, shameless self-promotion, is that there are different buckets, bless you, I'm sure I'm allowed to do that. Is we figured out that there's 5 different buckets where you can market a property. And I'm going to talk to you about our strategy to expose your property to the most amount of people in each one of these buckets, if that works. The first one is brokerage websites. And our technology allows us to market your property in a variety of brokerage, across a variety of brokers across the nation. For instance, your property can be showcased on Remax.com, ERA, Keller Williams, the #2 company in the world, Coldwell Banker. Which means it doesn't matter what broker you hire, even if you really like the Redfin website, Brian, or the Remax website, or one of the other ones, your property will be showcased on there prominently through my technology efforts. Now the second bucket, what I really just tell them?
IDX. Yeah.
That's what they do too?
Yep.
Right? Now the second thing is national portals, Brian. What I'm talking about is websites like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, Realestate.com, etc. What I've learned is that when you go to one of these websites, there's 27 pages of 25 properties per page, and the odds that a consumer is going to go to page 2, let alone page 27, is slim to none. So, for your property to be effectively marketed on these sites, you need to hire an agent that understands how to manipulate these portals so that your results, your property comes up as fast as possible. Some of these things are easy. Some of them are based on the number of photographs that we post. Some of them are based on how often we update it. Others are just shameless capitalists that force us to pay them monthly fees so our listings can show up higher on the list. We do all of those things to make sure that your property is not only put on these websites, but every agent's going to show you this stupid picture, but they're not going to show you how they're going to get it to the top of the results, and that's what matters. That is what matters, Brian. Now, additionally, let's talk about classified services. Classified services would be things like Poodle, Kijiji, Backpage, and probably the most notable one is Craigslist. And Brian, maybe you'd use Craigslist to buy a couch or a gun or a car or something like that. Have you ever used it before?
Yes.
You know what the funny assumption is about Craigslist? Is that most people think you have to have a credit score under 400 to shop on.
True.
Which is not true, Brian. We sell $1 million properties, commercial properties, all the time, directly from leads we generated from Craigslist. It's also been very effective in marketing a property internationally, because a lot of international clients are used to having Craigslist in their market, because in a lot of markets they don't even have an MLS. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we have a process that we use to market your property on these pages. Now, it's not like the average agent's process, because the average agent, if they do this, they do it once and then they forget about it. What we're going to do is we're going to post your property, continue to update your property every 48 hours from the day I list your property till the day I actually sell it. Now, what we found by doing this, Brian, is that we're going to generate a lot of traffic and a lot of potential leads that have an opportunity to purchase your property. In addition to classified services, we're also going to market your property across search engines. Search engines are things like Google, Yahoo, MSN, and Bing. Do you use any of these, Brian?
Yes.
Which one have you used?
Google and Yahoo.
Okay, good. Now, I prefer Google, but we use strategies to make sure that our websites, our properties, and our services are featured on a variety of different search engines. In fact, when you look at a Google search results like this, you'll notice that there's two types of places where properties can show up. The first one is where the arrows are pointing right now. These are pay-per-click advertising. This is where I'm paying to make sure that your property is showcased or my websites are showcased when somebody types in a specific term. Well, the next area right here, Brian, this is the Google's natural organic results. This involves a process that you don't even know about or care about, but it's called search engine optimization. And I figured out through websites like Active Rain, blogging, and my other strategies to make sure that your property shows up at the top of the list. Now, the one question I always ask a potential seller like you would be, if you were a buyer looking to buy a property just like yours, how would you describe it? What would you type into the box at Google?
3-bedroom, 2-bath home in Bellingham, Washington.
All right, so if I could make it when somebody typed in 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in Bellingham, Washington, your property and my website was right at the top of the list, do you think that would help get your property sold?
Yes.
And that's something that few agents understand how to do, what few agents actually do. That's something I'm an expert at. Now, feel free to search around online. If you ever think of another phrase that we want to actually add, or you want me to work on making sure your website shows up on, just send me an email or send me a text. Now, whenever you're searching and you see on this list here in the paid area, you ever see somebody that doesn't work for me? I want you to click on their ads, because that costs them a little bit of money. Especially the 6 and 21 guys there. Kidding. Now, after the search